So we start. Good morning, everybody. I'm Marine. I'm communications leader for ICCEE and taking care of communications for ICCEE and a little bit of the project that you will hear from in the second part, the Smes. I have to say I'm a bit nervous because it's been 3 years. I used to organize an event with people here in presence. We've become expert in online things now, but I'm excited to see real people and to have all of you here. You have free coffee, tea, water, I think also at the entrance of the room, so you can always stand left and you'll get something, free snacks. We'll have also a buffet lunch after the end of the event. And I'm also very excited to have Ina Colombo-Yula doing the keynote of today's session. She's Deputy Director General of the International Institute of Refrigeration since 2013, in charge especially of projects that she will mention. I've seen the slides, that are either at national, regional, or international, receiving funding from these 3 levels. She is also Secretary of the IIR Working Group on Cold Chain in all countries. And she's an advocate of the diversity in engineering. And yeah, she graduated from a PhD in engineering with degrees in sustainable energy systems, building services engineering from London Southbank University. And I'm very happy to have you here. You can move directly to the slides here. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good to see some face physically. Thank you for inviting me to the keynote. And so, as mentioned, Marine, I'm working for the International Institute of Refrigeration. I'm the Deputy Director General, and I'm in charge as part of managing the institute, also of managing national, regional, and international student projects. So who is the International Institute of Refrigeration? The institute has been founded in 1908, so we've got more than 100 years of existence, and we are based in Paris. We're an intergovernmental, independent science and technology-based organization. And our main duty is to promote and disseminate worldwide the knowledge about refrigeration and all its uses. We've got an international network. We've got 59 member countries, okay? And let's say 1,000 corporate and private members, and also more than 300 experts. Our experts are commission members that has been nominated by the member country delegates, and we are in partnership with many international organizations, as you can see in the banner. So, cold chain. Why we need cold chain? First of all, we need to understand that we've got over 600 million people of the knowledge, okay, which is equivalent of around 9% of the worldwide population. And it is expected to have at least 2 billion more people on Earth by 2050. So according to our information note, I will point to what our information on the role of refrigeration in worldwide nutrition, published in 2020, the elimination of food losses due to the lack of refrigeration could feed up to at least 1,000 million people. As you can see in the map here, you can see the country we are affected by undernutrition. And we've got also, which is based on FOMO note. I've got some copies, if you want, or you can download it from the website. Some figures showing the food production, worldwide food production, but for developed country and developing country, you can say it's more or less the same production, and the food that needs to be refrigerated for developed and developing country, based on our culture or the way we are eating. Some food in developing country are not really refrigerated, And actually, what's happening among the food that's supposed to be refrigerated, what are actually refrigerated compared to developing countries, but we can see the losses, okay? And the losses is more, even if we are refrigerated less, but the losses is more to the lack of refrigeration. So why we need a cold chain? A clean cold chain is to avoid the 55% of global losses in order to secure food security, but also to reduce greenhouse gases emission. We will improve the food quality and food safety, but it's not only food. If we've got a clean cold chain, we'll be able to improve medicine and vaccine transportation and conservation, okay? We saw the COVID situation. The first vaccine was Pfizer's, okay? And we needed to conserve them on the -70 degrees C, around that age, or the maximum, let's say that, on -20 and 70 degrees C. So, and we need to transport those vaccine, those medicine to people. So we need to have a reliable, clean cold chain, okay? So yes, for clean and efficient cold chain, but less emission. We need less emission. Based on the latest declaration from the General Secretary of United Nations, Antonio Guterres, he has requested countries. It was a statement that all countries should have a national cold chain strategy. So since this declaration, the cold chains now is a global priority. So we need to develop an improved cold chain and with reduced greenhouse gas emission, which are needed in developing countries in both farm gate and post-farm gate level. And how are we going to do that? We need to reduce energy consumption, definitely, to reduce the greenhouse gas emission by improving energy system. It's got different ways. We're here for that, okay? Your consortium have been doing that. We improve the thermal storage. We integrate different systems. We make better insulation of the cold chain. It's got different ways that we can improve the energy, reduce the energy consumption. We can also apply low global warming potential or natural refrigerants, okay? And also we can use energy, renewable energy like solar, turbine, geothermal energy in order to reduce the energy consumption. But who are the key stakeholders in those improvements? We've got the policymakers, we've got the producers, we've got the operators, the industrial, the firm, the consumers. Everyone needs to be a key player in this development. And we are here because we have been funded by the European Commission. The role of the European project is to make to raise awareness. Okay, it's got the dissemination, so we've got building capacity and transfer knowledge. So I want to show you some figures that is coming from my information. I've got some copies if you want, but also they are in open access in our website. Okay, so we've got figures about greenhouse gases emission of the cold chain related to the cold chain. We've got this informatory note, which is in French and English, that demonstrate that an improved cold chain can reduce the food losses by 55%. But also, the improved cold chain, based on the current that we are in now, will allow a reduction of almost 50% of the CO2 emission of the current cold chain. Okay, everything is well explained in detail in this information. I'm just showing you some key figures. Okay, so the European Green Deal climate action. Okay? Why? The objective is to be the first climate neutral continent in 2050. Why? Because we want to keep the global temperature increase to well below 2 degrees C on our bodies, and to push the effort to keep it to 1.5 degrees. How this would be possible is to reduce emission in all sectors. Okay? In the industry, the energy, the transport, the farming, all the cold chain, the chain of the cold chain need to reduce, but also the overall objective of Europe is in every industry. I'm just talking about the cold chain, okay? And in order to reduce, to cut the greenhouse gases emission by at least 55% by 2030, based on the 1990 level, and to raise an ambition target and make awareness to the policymakers and the investors. So is all strategy that are started, but we've got main objectives. So I want to discuss about, so we've got this project, and I'm happy that you invite me, because we've got so many projects, we get lost sometimes. But we at the Institute, we got recently a project called INO, okay? And the objective of this project is to reduce greenhouse gases emission from the food sector by 2050. This project has been funded by the European Commission, is coordinated by System Ocean in Norway. It's a consortium of 28 partners. Okay? We've got 12 European partners with expertise across the whole cold chain. This project started the 1st of October to 2021 for a period of 4 years. The project will provide technology, tools, and methods to contribute to the EU firm to form strategy to achieve climate neutral food businesses. The overall objective is to identify strategy to achieve carbon neutrality for food businesses, to activate and manage the full chain for the future, to demonstrate new technology to help decarbonisation of the food of the full chain, and to develop innovative full chain systemic approaches and solutions. You can go to the website. Please go to the QR code. If it doesn't work, let me know. But I've got some brochures that I can give you. It will be we've got also the sister project. This other project that's got more or less the same objective that your project can integrate. This project are well started now. It's going to be 9 months now, and we recently got our first physical progress meeting during the Confederation, after the Confederation conference in Norway, where it's got a coordinator. But I would like to mention, we mentioned about the developing countries. The European Union also want to help those countries by transferring knowledge. It's got this project also that the Institute is a partner. We are the work package leader and even for enough of the communication and the dissemination called SOFIA. This project, SOFIA for Sustainable Upgrade Solution for Pharmacies and Hospitals in Africa. I'm not going to stay much because it's for developing country. The same thing, they started at the same period as enough, dedicated for Africa. It's coordinated by Castro University, and we've got 13 partners. We're supposed to install innovative solar-powered cold room to conserve vaccine and blood plasma on the minus 70 degrees C using CO2 refrigerant. So it's very challenging. Registered, received some newsletter, and it's got some pilot countries. Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Malawi, and Uganda. So, as I mentioned to you, we about dissemination and transfer knowledge. We normally got series of conferences worldwide. Recently, this year we had the Sustainability and Cold Chain Conference organized by the Iowa. It was online. we had 2 weeks ago the God Sovereign Center for Natural Refrigerant, but we've got our Congress that happened every 4 years. The last one was in Montreal in 2019. The next one is next year in Paris, 1 hour by train, and when we discuss about all the thematics about the refrigeration technology. So not only cold chain, but all the technologies. So the Congress is next year. The call for abstract is open. It's supposed to finish the 29th of this month. But definitely will have an extension. If you are interested, please submit an abstract and come and join us to our Congress. So I thank you very much, and I hope we will exchange and explore the better. Thank you.
It's very nice to see you all here. We started the project in presence with the kickoff meeting, and then everything and thank you very much to Marine that pushed the effort to make it in presence, trying not to have only people connected. We have some people connected, of course, with some problems, but finally it's very nice to see you. Thank you very much for Ina for introducing the topic. I will have a short overview of the overall project. Of course, other colleagues will talk a bit on some details, other steps of the chain, some results of the project. I will just show a very brief overview. I will start very quickly. So Ina already highlighted the impact of food cold chain or overall agri-food chains. The impact is quite consistent. What I want to just highlight is that, of course, the primary sector impact on gas emission and embodied energy is relevant, but the post-farm gate, so after the farming, it's quite relevant. So, of course, there is some effort that must be spent on the farming stages, but of course, the logistics and follow-up activities plays a significant role, and this is also why the European Commission put the farm to fork strategy, of course, also after the starting of this project. Refrigeration, of course, is crucial, is vital. However, as you can see from the figure, few amounts of products is currently properly refrigerated, and there are still a lot of losses occurring at different stages of the supply chain. And just coming back to your claim of your recent works, just to put in contact, this emission can be consistently reduced. So we are not just talking about small figure, we are talking about 50% reduction of CO2 emission if we can properly manage or differently manage the cold chain. So food quality losses, we are talking about something that is not just the food that is thrown away. Especially in the project, we look also to the nutritional aspects of food. So when you when you have finished to pack or to refrigerate different kind of food, it starts to lose quality and they start to decrease in their nutritional aspect with respect to different, let's say, temperature. So especially along the chain, sometimes we are talking about a few days, but sometimes we are talking about also months or even years. And this is very relevant. So we are not, when we talk about cold chain, we are also talking about food losses due to nutritional intake. So food and beverage cold supply chain, all of you are aware of what we are talking about. So just to preserve the quality, we are putting effort in different stages. So we are putting effort at the producer, at the central distributor, even to the consumer, the final consumer with the refrigerator. So the project ICCEE, Improving Cold Chain Energy Efficiency in the Food and Beverage Sector, started almost 3 years ago with 3 key aspects. So the facilitation of energy efficiency measure within the cold chain. The main topic is the holistic perspective, so looking at the overall cold chain and not just a single actor, and we'll come back later on, and try to accelerate investment in this aspect. Of course, when we started the project, energy was not, let's say, it's under the carpet of the companies. Of course, they, especially in cold chain, it's an important aspect, but now that the prices, the company are very interested. And of course, probably 3 years ago, when you talk about payback period of investment in energy efficiency, we can look at 5 to 10 years. Now with those prices. With those prices, we are talking about a month in terms of payback. The consortium is quite wide, 13 partners, different background from research institutions, consultancy company, company associations, and so on, and most of participants are here in the room today. In the project, we have 2 main pillars. So the tool development, there will be a presentation focused on the tool. So the main aim of the tool is to allow to, first of all, to map the cold supply chain and different contribution to the overall energy expenditure provided by each of the actors of the chain, and perform a what-if analysis to understand the impact of different investments. Especially, we are talking about investments also in operation, like increasing the capacity utilization of warehouses, or in the transportation, or speed up the chain instead of having a long or less efficient transportation and logistic activities. So those activities are within the tool, and the presentation will be provided. And then there are a consistent effort in the capacity building with the support of the tool, of course, but also providing non-energy experts working within the cold chain, the sensitiveness of intervention of energy aspects, and the implication of their decision on energy issues. So one point is also to try to attract non-energy people in the capacity building activity, because we understand that, or we believe that most of this decision, the operation decisions, are made outside of the energy, let's say, energy manager or energy expert. So we try not to look only on technological aspects or technological investments. We are looking also on, as I said, operational and logistics decision that may affect the overall energy consumption. Coming back to the holistic perspective, just to a quick figure, a quick overview to show the overall approach. So, of course, if each actor of the chain try to improve its consumption, so decrease its consumption from the initial situation, of course, there are several interventions that each actor can take itself. But based on our practical observation in different chains, also coming from outside the food sector, we look that if we take the overall chain, usually, of course, you can take more advantages in some stages. Maybe in some stages, some actors may not decrease as if they behave alone, but the overall result is the overall supply chain. So look at the overall cold chain, and compared with the myopic approach, you can get some additional saving. In which way? First of all, looking at additional efficiency measures, the harmonization of interventions. And as I said, since we are not looking just on technological issues, we are looking on operations. So we are looking on logistic organization, and if the actors, of course, can improve itself, but the storage is not needed. So install the items that are not needed, so you are investing energy with no result. And of course, increased energy efficiency implementation due to lower barriers. For example, we published also some papers related to financial exchange between parties with different access to the money. So the project started in September 3 years ago. More or less, all the activities, the initial activities are completed, and we are in the, let's say, final phase of the capacity building activities, especially the ones with the support of the tool is ongoing. There are also the exploitation on additional supply chains that is still missing in the next weeks. And of course, the sharing and exploitation of the results that is, let's say, close to be finalized. We have organized national trainings, as I said, involving also non-energy experts, with a total amount of 18 workshops, close to 1,500 participants, with a huge impact in terms of investments and energy saving that has been triggered. We have implemented an e-learning platform in different languages, with more probably the number will be slightly higher right now, and of course a toolbox, a wide toolbox freely available to be downloaded in Excel, so very easy to be understand, with tutorial on YouTube, and this is, let's say, one of the main results of the project. And of course, already applied in different supply chains in EU workshop, as later on will be discussed. And we build an industry informative network, again, it will be claimed later on, to match the demand of technology and the offer of technology. So sometimes there are some knowledge barriers that can be overcome using some, let's say, open market for, or open community for the communication. We have already produced several papers and scientific publications. More and more will be published in next month, hopefully. And thank you very much. This is just a very brief overview. Of course, details on the project steps will be provided soon during this morning. So my colleagues in the project, let me thank before they speak, but
Indeed, yeah, we are going to dig now into more of the aspects that you introduced, like the toolbox and non-energy benefits. And the first speaker to go deeper into topics is Daniele. Daniele Forni is working at Smes, the Italian Federation for the Rational Use of Energy, where he deals with energy and resource efficiency, energy services, audits, measurement and verification, legislation and regulation. The floor is yours, Daniele. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom, for the introduction, Marine, and also thanks for Simone, who already touched most of the things, gave an overview, most of the things we've done. In our project, we investigated, with the help of all of the partners, the most interesting energy efficiency techniques. So not just, not just steel and machines, but also the approaches that you can use to be more efficient, more resource and energy efficient. And this is reflected within the 30 fact sheet that we prepared at the beginning. This is based for the development of all of the tools and all of the material, and then came also within the training material that is already it's available in various languages, also as an online platform, and also are reflected back, let's say, from the market in the industrial informative network, because also that's another part. So if if we look at these fact sheets, they reflect different kind of approaches. So from managerial control, for instance, this part on what to do, what are the strategies that you can do in case you have an oversized cooling system that you should manage, because that's usually the kind of issue you have. When you design, you want to be sure that you're not undersized and so on. So that's typically issue that you may face. And then that there are other kind of, let's say, in the between. So something that you can do when you do some kind of maintenance, or anyway without discontinuity of production or limited discontinuity, that is doing efficiency on auxiliaries and so on. So those are just some examples of the fact sheet that we prepared. That's just the first page, but there are another couple of pages with numbers that try to be not so technical, also to be attractive and comprehensible for non-energy experts that are usually more linked or the decision maker themselves. And then here is just to remember the industrial informative network that will be touched again, but just to say that the first uploaded offers, because it says needs, demand, and offer of technologies are it's some kind of managerial with IoT and the limited control equipment to maximize the performance of the cooling system and monitoring them and so on. And here is the list of the energy saving opportunities that we have in our course, and it's again divided in different parts. But you can see there are some hardware parts, and there's a lot of course about the cooling and the heating system, the heat recovery, and also the management part that's on this part here, and the urgency that is now coming for the decarbonized and reduce fossil fuel dependence, and also to be more closed and circular in the approach to the production and to the whole supply chain is pushing also in the way to recover as much as possible. Also the heat that is usually dispersed in the environment and that is listed in the industrial emission directive, but there's no limitation to it, but it's something that we should be aware, and it's a resource that we should use and exploit. So also now we see that there's much more offer of high temperature heat pumps. So most of the heating demand would also be covered by high temperature heat pumps that soon will come also to the industrial informative network as offers, and could be very interesting to cover a part recovering and substitute fossil fuels like steam boilers and so on, getting up to 160 and up to 200 degrees for steam. So that could be very interesting, but also very simple, let's say, normal maintenance that could really enhance the operation of the system that sometimes is overlooked, but we also face it directly when visiting the various parts of the supply chain, that usually the heat exchanger are not placed in the right place, not properly clean and maintained, so that the efficiency goes down. And this is just one factor that we prepare at the beginning of the project, but again we face it during our visit. And also the heat recovery that could be linked to upgrade the heat with the heat pumps, that is now very interesting, and we are investigating more with some of the partner to see how we can propose these. And linked to this is the multi-stage refrigerant, because if you need to upgrade the heater, you usually need to have a big temperature increase, and so most probably you would need a multi-stage and to go to such high temperatures as mentioned before. And so these are, and also new and alternatives refrigerant to also tackle the global warming potential of the old ones, and other issue of even older, let's say, and now banned, not anymore usable refrigerant, but still present somewhere in some industry till today. So here we add some other kind of example, and not to forget also to use outside temperature where it's possible. So the free cooling is overlooked, but now it could be much more interesting to really exploit these free heat from the outside when it's at the right temperature and humidity for to avoid other consumption. That's all from my side, and yes, smart monitoring is something that we can also with the IoT and big data, artificial intelligence 4.0, and so on. And we see a lot of interest in this and a lot of good practice, but you can see on the industrial informative network that will be touched again in the next presentations. And also you will see some other tools that are used to help the decision makers to appreciate the benefits of these measures. So for you can go also on the website of the project for more resources. Thank you very much.
Lisa, the floor is yours. Lisa Nuzal is the partner for ICCEE, if I'm not wrong, and she will focus on the non-energy benefits, otherwise called as well multiple benefits. Lisa is working as a researcher in the energy efficiency business unit at Harvard, as I said, and she focuses mostly on the analysis of energy efficiency potentials, decarbonisation strategies in industry, and works on the various projects such as ICCEE and E2 Driver, which you will hear from this afternoon. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Marianne. Good to be here. Welcome, everyone. Well, Daniela just presented us various energy efficiency measures for the cold chain. I'd like to talk about the other countable benefits. Maybe some of you are already familiar with this topic, the so-called non-energy benefits, but I'd like to introduce them just briefly. And then I'd like to present you some initial results we collected at the beginning of the ICCEE project with interviews, where we wanted to analyze the role of energy efficiency and non-energy benefits in the cold chain. And in the final slides, I'd like to elaborate a bit on how can we determine and evaluate those NEBs in a strategical manner. So what are NEBs? That's the abbreviation I will use from now on. Well, you can imagine it like an iceberg. The energy savings and energy cost savings are the obvious for the company, but hidden down under the water, there is lying the overlooked. That might be positive side effects of an energy efficiency measure. For example, if I replace my or switch to LED light bulbs, I experience fewer maintenance hours. And this is something which is typically not integrated in the economics of an energy efficiency project, but well, it might lead to higher acceptance in the management level of a company, for example, if we include those benefits. And this is also something science is looking at, so more the branch we are in from Fraunhofer, which discovered that, well, the true value of an energy efficiency project might be up to 2.5 times higher than if looking at the energy efficiency improvements alone. From a scientific perspective, these NEVs, positive side effects, are all the effects besides the reduced energy costs and the reduced CO2 emissions. So to give you some examples, that might be in the area of production when the product quality increases. That might be in the area of operation and maintenance, for example, if maintenance costs decrease, and that might be in the area of a better working environment for the clients, for the employees, for example, if we use closed refrigeration units. But also softer factors such as an improved green image, which the company can advertise with. And above all these many aspects which can have a positive effect, well, we have to say that human also play a decisive role. Humans, because of, and with that I mean behavior, mindset, organizational factors. So that means if we have a lack of awareness at the employee level regarding the energy topics, this is something we have to tackle together with the energy efficiency measure as well. And this is something we discovered or we analyzed in our interviews. So within the ICCEE project, we conducted about 60 interviews with experts in the food sector, in the cold chain, and there was a follow-up online survey with about, well, I think valuable answers were about 150, which we analyzed. And we dig deeper into this question: to what degree do the companies actually cooperate along the cold supply chain with regard to energy efficiency? And also what the relevance of non-energy benefits is for them. Is it a topic they are aware of, or is it something like new for them? What we wanted to differentiate a bit is, well, the individual company perspective versus the supply chain perspective. Are there any differences? I briefly got you some of the results today, but as Simone mentioned, we had several publications where we presented these results as well. So if you're interested, have a look at those. Well, first of all, in the interviews, we asked if the companies think that some energy is wasted due to a lack of cold supply chain coordination. And as you can see, almost three quarters agreed on a question. And when we asked further, well, especially barriers like a communication outside of the contractual framework was lacking, and also specialized staff for these energy topics who can bring energy efficiency forward is still lacking at the companies. And these all might be factors which are important for the individual companies, but if we think of the supply chain or the cold supply chain, which is quite complex with many actors, it might be even more pronounced. What we then saw in the interviews, the first bullet point here is that all of the companies, of the participants agreed that energy efficiency is an important topic in decision-making processes for them in the individual company, but also in the supply chain. And what we then wanted to go further is these positive side effects on the right-hand side. So we asked if the companies are aware, do they perceive some of these NEVs? For the individual companies, yes, they could name some, also in the survey. That might be different lighting with LEDs, which increases the purchase decisions of the clients. That might be the closed refrigeration units I already mentioned. So there, seems to be a point on that. When we asked the same question for the supply chain, it was a bit more blurry. So it seems that this topic is not, well, the companies do not think it from a supply chain perspective yet. It's not an everyday practice. Additionally, we asked to choose from a list of non-energy benefits to choose those which strongest speak for the implementation of an energy efficiency measure. What we can see here, that the highest rates are for those benefits directly can give an economic advantage. So increased productivity, automation, improved operational working conditions, but also waste reduction, emissions reduction, and this image factor. Yeah, it are benefits the companies think could be important. Well, to conclude from these interviews and surveys, what we saw is, well, there are non-energy benefits, they are perceived, but from a practical experience, they are lacking somehow. And this is why we in the ICCEE project try to develop a tool. Beatrice will show you all the whole bunch of 6 or 7 tools, I'm not aware, in her presentation, but we also have a tool on NEBs to try to bring the companies, like, to give them a first glance of this topic and how to determine NEBs from a strategical manner. And this kind of tool, I will skip those slides to a matter of time, uses actually an approach which was developed in another EU project which name was multiple benefits. It's quite a famous project for some of you maybe. Just in brief, what this approach uses is a value cost risk analysis. I mean, we might think the first question a company might ask itself is, what kind of product am I selling, and how can my energy efficiency project increase the value of my product so that more clients want to buy it. And this is the value proposition as a first pillar. And then there are 2 other pillars like cost reduction and risk reduction, which all have a strategical interest for the company. So these 3 dimensions might be important if an energy manager wants to sell his energy efficiency project to the management. And this is what we picked up, and the tool, just in brief, allows the user to select one exemplary energy efficiency measure, for example, modern frequency converters in the refrigeration technology, and to determine step by step non-energy benefits, which may fit to this measure. Reduce maintenance costs, product quality, maybe reduce noise, or employee satisfaction, which increased. And then the question is, how can we categorize those NEBs in strategic terms to sell it to the upper management, for example? So this is made by the tool, and then it's of course a necessary step to collect data, to define departments where you can find this data. That might be, well, a measurement of decibel for the noise reduction. That might be an employee survey on the satisfaction, or maintenance hours, something like that. Based on all this information, a final step would be, preferably, to also monetize those additional benefits. That's the hardest step, I guess. But yeah, the tool tries to help the user with that too. And what we wanted to go beyond is also not only taking the individual company into account, but take the supply chain perspective again, since this is the topic of ICCEE. So of course, maybe reduced maintenance hours is more an individual company thing, but if we think of optimized transport routes or better product quality, that might be a factor which is important for all of the actors in the chain. So we try to make the companies think of that of the whole chain too. And this brings me to my last slide, which is a spoiler for Beatrice's presentation, because this is the NEB tool, and she will give you an overview of all the tools we developed within the project. So thank you for the attention.
And exactly as mentioned, our next speaker is Beatrice, working together with Simone at the University of Brescia. Beatrice is joining us from online. Beatrice, if you want, if you're here, you can request control above the slides. Do you see the button? If you want to move the slides yourself.
Yes, but it is disabled, so I cannot request.
You cannot click it. Okay, when you say next, then I will move to the next slide. So
Okay, thank you.
the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Marie. So, good morning to everyone. As Simone has already said, one of the main results, output of the project was the development and the application of a set of tools in order to support decision makers inside the cold chain along different topics related to energy efficiency in the cold chain. So we developed 7 different tools that can be downloaded and used offline. They can be downloaded in 8 different languages, and of course on the website there are also some videos explaining better the details of each one of these tools. But I want to underline that these tools are easy to use because the focus of the project was not on the energy expert, but on increasing energy awareness and energy culture to each one of the decision makers. So each decision maker inside the cold chain can use these different tools. Next slide, thank you. So the first tool is the cold supply chain tool, which aim is to allow the user to analyze the energy consumption related to the refrigeration needs and the quality losses of the overall chain. So the aim of this tool is to map all the energy consumption of different energy carriers while mapping also at the same time the quality losses, because all the products that are wasted induce a higher specific energy consumption, and so we need to consider the optimal temperature, the optimal refrigeration need in order to consider this trade-off between energy consumption and quality losses. So, as already said, this tool allows to evaluate the trade-off between the energy consumption related to the refrigeration needs to set a specific temperature, the storage time, and the consequent quality losses at each stage of the cold chain. So in the results sheet, we have information of each one of the actors. So we have information of the overall chain, and we can define the performance, the environmental performance, the energy performance of the whole chain, but we have also deeper details of each one of the stages. And so we can define which is the stage with the highest contribution in terms of quality losses or energy consumption. And so we can also set a specific rank on the different energy efficiency measures. So if we look at the different stages, we can rank the energy efficiency measure in order to implement firstly the most promising one. So if we have a stage that has very low energy consumption, we have no reason to implement an energy efficiency measure in this case, but we need to focus on these stages with the highest contribution. So as already said, the target group are all the managers inside the cold chain. So supply chain, operation manager, transportation manager, logistic manager, not only energy expert. Okay. The second tool is a simplified version of a life cycle assessment. So also in this case, it is not a complex life cycle assessment let me say a complete life cycle assessment, but it is a simplified version, because in this way each user can insert the data needed, or the input data needed for the analysis. And okay, we have selected 3 different criteria in order to evaluate the cold chain. So we have the three indicators. The first one is the cumulative energy demand, the second, the global warming potential, and the last, the water footprint, since these are the most relevant indicators in order to evaluate the environmental impact of the cold chain. And also in this case, we have the result for the overall cold chain, so we can compare different cold chains, different scenarios for the cold chains, but we have also information on the different stages. So as the previous tool, we have details in order to prioritize the measures on the specific stages. So the next tool is a life cycle costing analysis tool. So given the previous two tools, we have a sort of rank of the different energy efficiency measures. With this tool, we can evaluate these selected measures from an economic point of view. So it is a life cycle costing life cycle tool. So we have also in this case the holistic approach. So we consider the overall lifetime of the investment, so of the energy efficiency measures, and we can evaluate all the life cycle cost in a structured way. In particular, we have three different indicators that we can use to compare the different energy efficiency measures, that are the net present value, the internal rate of return, and the profit index. So for each one of the measures, we can evaluate their feasibility, and we can compare them in order to have also a prioritization in terms of economic performance. Then we have two different tools focused on non-energy benefits, so related to the previous presentation of Lisa. The first one is the benchmarking non-energy benefit tool that allows the users to have a first reflection on the non-energy benefits. So in this tool, there are a set of questions that the user can answer, and it represents an entry point for a deeper reflection on the role of the non-energy benefit and of on a wider aspect of the energy efficiency from both the individual point of view, but also from the cold chain point of view. And the results also offer benchmarking of the answer, so the user can compare its answer with the peers, so with the data already obtained from the previous survey developed under ICCEE. The second tool on the non-energy benefit is the non-energy benefit evaluator, which is a tool that supports the user in the evaluation and of the potential non-energy benefits in a structured manner. So starting from the methodology previously presented by Lisa, the user can investigate which are the main non-energy benefits, and the user can try to evaluate each one of these non-energy benefits. So the tool supports the user in the assessment of the non-energy benefit for the specific energy efficiency measures selected from the result of the previous tool. Okay, and the last tool, the sixth tool is the multi-criteria analysis tool. This is the most complex one, so there is a macro behind the spreadsheet. So in this case, it could be quite more complex than the other. But the aim of this tool is to include the results of the first and the second tools, so of the cold supply chain and the life cycle assessment tools, because we have different pictures. From the first one, we have results in terms of specific energy consumption and quality losses, while in the second we have more environmental result indicators focus on the environmental performance. So this tool integrates all the 5 indicators. So given a specific weight on all these indicators, we can find the best solution while considering 3 different levels that are the temperature for the raw material, the temperature for the final product, and the lot size at the final stage, because the lot size implies different storage time. So these are the 3 most important levels in terms of managerial intervention. So not technological measures, but managerial measures. Okay. The last tool is the guidance tool. In this spreadsheet gives more information about the solution, to present an overview of the toolbox, and present more information about best practice, so solution for improving the energy efficiency of the cold chain, and also provide an overview on the national support program, so on the funding currently available for the implementation of energy efficiency measures inside the cold chain. So in this case, we have information for different state members. In this last slide, we want only to show some results. We have used some of the tools inside the European workshop that we have conducted in the last month. And from applying these tools for different case studies, we have observed that the implementation of the managerial practices, so for example, increasing the saturation of the vehicles and the utilization of the warehouses, or moving from a global chain to a local cold chain, so lower distances between the stages and so lower time, we can reach high reduction of energy consumption, wastes, and CO2 emissions. So, for example, we can, in the dairy sector, with the implementation of these managerial practices, we can obtain up to minus 80% of the energy consumption, of the specific energy consumption, minus 15% of the quality losses, and minus 83% of the CO2 equivalent CO2 generation. So, of course, these are case study, specific case studies, and these are very big reduction, but this is to show the relevance that also managerial practices has on the improvement of the sustainability of cold chain. So not only technological measures, but we need to move also from the managerial aspect. So coordinating the cold chain, integrating the decision at the different stages can provide relevant benefits for all the sector. Okay, thank you all.
Grazie Beatrice. We have many Italians in the project, and the next one is another one. Maurizio, I invite you to join me here to present the innovation and energy efficiency in the cold chain and some lessons learned. And Maurizio is working at Federalimentare, the Italian Food and Drink Industry Federation, responsible for youth projects, environment, and young entrepreneurs areas. I give you the floor.
Thank you very much. It is also nice to stay with you this final conference. Today I'm speaking for Federalimentare, but as partner in ICCEE project, we are as SJ, so a network of 9 European the Beverage Federation. So I am here also on behalf of SJ. Some economics and statistics to focus on the food and drink sector in Europe as the second largest manufacturing sector, about the total turnover, but not only, also the employment rate, 4 million people employed, and a number of companies roughly on 300,000. So it is important also to focus on these statistics when we are speaking about innovation, research, development, and also involvement in European project. Also, the share of the small and medium enterprises, 40% of the turnover produced is came from small and medium enterprises. And also how in this subsector we can highlight also the contribution from micro, small companies, but also medium-sized companies. This is a challenge because when we are still on the project, our role was mainly to finalize the precious activities done by the partners, the technical partners especially, to involve not only the food producers in the training, in the learning, in the sectorial workshops, but also to let them to involve the other actors of the supply chain. It was not easy. It was an ambitious challenge. And again, concerning the food supply chain, we will see also other slides on that. So a series of diverse economic operators with their specific business models. It's nice also to see the share of the food supply chain at European level as a value added, 60%, but also the share of the same supply chain concerning the employment rate. This is important because when we are speaking about introducing intervention, taking decision about investment, it is important also to be able to a dialogue with experts dealing and working in companies and for the companies to let them take some decision. Sustainability is the topic also of today. We have seen from the first presentation of Mrs. Immacolova the role of the impact of the cold chain in the food sector, but also the impact about sustainability. So yes, the figures, the most recent figures said that the food and drink industry is the fifth sectors in the ranking about emission in manufacturing industry. Also, the role of the food waste, we have seen several inputs for that. And also in terms of emission, 11% of the total emissions are coming from European sector. So this debate is clear about the relationship of this project, this sector amongst the legislative and non-legislative measures of the European Green Deal, especially when we are speaking about climate, promoting clean energy and farm to fork. So we have prepared 7 lessons learned, 7 because it's my favorite number, so we start at 7. And we have tried to extract some information from the activities we've done together with the project partners. Some contents were already raised on the floor by Simone and Daniele, but some lessons learned might be obvious, others not so obvious, but it's our feedback. So the first supply chain, the first lesson learned is about is to approach a supply chain perspective. So for the companies to move from their sectorial business, from their comfort zone, to involve in this debate also their the other actors, starting from the raw material suppliers until the final consumer, passing by the other several stages. So in the activities we took and where we were involved, it was also this issue was one of the most important lesson learned communicated to our members. Second lesson learned, the cold chain in the food sector has represent an unexplored potential because it's among the most energy intensive systems within this sector, but there is still a limited understanding of this large energy efficiency potential. and also the related economic advantage. So the toolbox, the specific materials developed by the project goes into this direction. And also focus on particular aspects of this unexplored potential, especially when we are speaking about short, different shelf lives during along the food supply chain, and different needs for refrigeration at each stages of the supply chain. The third, we have seen from the presentation of Simone, and also the first presentation, the relationship between food quality and food waste. So more food quality to have less food waste. There are in our path developed by ICCEE project, we have also investigated the main causes on this topic, such as wrong or poor packaging, bad storage of products with which requires different temperature requirements, in sudden interruption of the cold chain, lack of proper infrastructure and facilities, and so on. The fourth one is about the multiple benefits. So not only energy saving benefits and a series of other aspects which should be taken into consideration by the producers, like the maintenance, operational cost reduction, an improved system reliability, an improved safety, increase of productivity, better work environment. So all other aspects not directly related to the energy savings. Fifth one is about, in this case, energy saving opportunities, which can come from a better management of innovative technologies, a better solution about maintenance and regular operational management. These are opportunities because can have a potential both to reduce energy consumption and also to reduce energy costs for maintenance and for operational. But there are a number of opportunities, a number of intervention from the design of new systems to the introduction of, for example, inverter, electronic expansion valves, etc., but also to work on the devices for the IoT, but also for the new monitoring devices to the aimed at controlling the temperatures and so on. The sixth lesson learned, the holistic approach. During the several trainings, but also workshop we organized in presence also since 2 years ago. We were speaking about the decarbonization and how to achieve this ambitious objective by fixing energy efficiency rates. And a key to achieve this common objective could be the integration of different technological and control solutions with a series of possible options. And the thing important is to tailor-made this integration for each production site, but also to take into account several process requirements, the different cycle of production, the different geography, and the synergies with the different potential territories. The last one is to keeping the network updated. So we have seen this line of the project activity, the industry informative network. We were responsible to design, to conceive this platform. Today it's important to say that this will be an afterlife tool which will be live even beyond the end of the project. We were responsible to continue the animation of this network by keeping this matchmaking between experts and non-experts, stakeholders of the full supply chain, by pushing to promote offers, but also to pushing to express some demand and challenges. It is not a database, it's a way to maintain the brand of the project, but also to maintain alive a kind of qualified networks. So this is the screenshot of the homepage. So I really invite to see the Industry Informative Network in our website and to register in the members area to see what is inside. Thank you for the attention.
We are almost coming to the end of this first part with the last speaker. Ignacio, I invite you to come here. Thomas can be put it back here. Ignacio will present a few slides on capacity building. He's an engineer at the ESCAN Energy Consulting Company, and he has experience in market studies, energy efficiency, and sustainable energy, power generation, and smart.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
Okay, well, the aim of the ICCEE trainings is to provide non-energy experts and energy experts with knowledge on energy efficiency in the food and beverage cold supply chains, which can be easily used to gain economic and energy savings in their own organizations. The content of the trainings provides specialized knowledge, especially for the distribution and the storage, but also includes all the relevant parts of the industry and all the different stages. Well, the complete ICCEE trainings include three main actions, which is national trainings, European workshops, and the e-learning. Let's start with the national trainings, which are focused on the cold chains in each of the project partners' countries and are held by each of the partners in their own national language, with 1 or 2 day duration. The trainings were originally meant to be conducted in a classroom, but due to the pandemic with the COVID-19, we used online platforms like Zoom, like the one we use, or Microsoft Teams, like the one we're using right now. And the topics vary from country to country, but the main ones are the ones shown in the slide, which are the energy outlook in the food and beverage sector, the energy management systems, energy performance indicators, measurement and verification protocols, the holistic approach, supply chain management and industrial symbiosis, energy saving opportunities on all the process from raw materials to final customer, financial analysis, funding and opportunity and lifecycle assessments, and in the end, the non-energy benefits and behavioral aspects of the energy efficiency. Well, at the end of the training program, participants responded to answer the test to check on the knowledge gain and also received a certificate for their participation. The number of attendees for the national trainings was close to 1,500 with an initial target of 1,200. Also, one of the reasons for the success of these trainings was the marketing developed by all the partners, both through direct and indirect actions. And one of the remarkable outcomes that we was that in general, all the trainings received very well satisfactory ratings from the attendees, with a score with most trainings receiving a score over 4 points with a maximum of 5 points. And also the trainers and the quality of the materials received was highly appreciated by the participants. according to their feedback. And also the organization of the trainings was outstanding. A couple of months later, we sent the participants a short questionnaire, where so we could obtain information on how how effective was the implementation of the trainings, and if they had implemented any efficiency measures in their own companies. And we received the following answers. Around 75% of the attendees commented that the events helped start or support energy efficiency measures in their respective companies, and also consider non-energy benefits. Also, more than half of those companies already started making investment decisions. And the energy efficiency category that most organizations have chosen to consider for their measures were renewable energy, monitoring systems, and refrigeration systems upgrades. Lastly, the expectations for energy and thermal savings, and also investments triggered by 2030 is also shown in these three figures, which is we get about the majority expected electrical and thermal savings between 10 and 100 megawatt hour per year, and around an investment trigger of between 50 and 500,000 euros per company. Then we have the European workshops. We have the objective of providing the participants with the principles of the tools, as well as the way the outputs of the model can interfere with their own business. So we engaged with different food and beverage companies from all over Europe and gather information provided from them, so we can include them in the tools and show them their results in personalized workshops, where we also show them a range of energy efficiency measures they could apply to their own organizations. One of the main challenges for organizing these workshops was involving the different parts of the same supply chain to obtain realistic scenarios, and so the information could be correct in the tool. As an example, I will show you one of the finalized workshops that focused on the cold chain of frozen fruit. On top, we can see the configuration of the cold chain, from the field to producer for processing and packaging activities, and then transported to the distribution center and the retailer. On the figure on the left, we can see the energy consumption of in each of the stages of the cold supply chain, which can be observed. The highest consumption is for distribution center, followed by the producer. Also on the right, we can see the energy consumption, the quality losses and the storage time in each of the stages. And by the end of the workshop, we show them a series of possible interventions, such as reducing the lot size and a faster replenishment rate for a lower refrigeration load, thus decreasing the energy consumption. Also, a separate compartments in the warehouse of the retailer stage with improved insulation, so we can reduce the refrigeration load and also improve the air infiltration, and even adjusting the cooling temperature to be homogeneous along the whole along the cold chain. Last, we have the e-learning, which is the e-learning is a training program that requires between 8 to 20 hours, and to finalize, and the participants can organize their own time since there's no tutors required, and the platform is open 24 hours a day. Yeah, the course is available in 8 different languages, including English, and the platform chosen was Moodle, which has been adequate since we consider the opinion of the project partners and also the non-existent complaints from the users. Overall, more than 200 and around 280 we have around 280 participants so far, which have completed the training, and it includes the following contents and tools. First, a set of materials with key information on sustainable food and beverage cold chains, which constitute the main course, as we can see on the first, on the middle. Second, a set of secondary materials, which are recommended but not mandatory. Third, we have a forum where users can include their questions, their doubts, and their comments. Fourth, a final test where the users can check on the knowledge acquired. And fifth and last, a quality test where the users can complete it to provide feedback for us so we can improve it for future versions. Some of the relevant key indicators that show the impact and the success of the e-learning trainings are the following. The first is the number of participants registered and the type of organization that they come from, with the majority of them coming from the industry and process organizations. Second, the food and beverage subsector of the participants, which can be seen in this figure. Third, the overall level of satisfaction with the course, which can be seen on the figure on the left, and the satisfaction with the training materials, as can be seen here. Yeah, so we recommend if any person is interested in cold supply energy efficiency, interested in the energy efficiency in the cold supply chains, to check out the course, since it is completely free and it will be available for a couple more years. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Right.
To all speakers who represented the ICCEE project in this first part. We are going to have a short break. I'm taking 2 dictator decisions now. The first one
in general, and that we are in the policy, on the policy level, dealing with guidelines and finances and so on. So, as I said, we are happy to have multiple sectors and to see and to have this option that there are many projects financed by the European Commission, and we found the opportunity to cooperate a lot. So what we did in the beginning, we tried to find complementarities and not to do the same things in different projects and try to kind of copy the work. So this cooperation has brought us a lot of good results. So to try to start the session, this is just a short introduction from me. There is someone who's much more expert in industry and small and medium enterprises. So Mr. Rod Jansen is going to lead the session. I'll have to read your CV.
Well, you don't have to read the whole thing.
So he's the president and the chairman of the board of the Brussels-based non-profit organization Energy Efficiency Industrial Processes, which is thankfully our partner in the Smes project also. He also chairs its work on financing and presents it in the Energy Efficiency Financial Institution Group, and which is organized by the Commission and UNEP. And for the group, he led the working group on industrial energy efficiency, and now is the co-lead on the one on accelerating consumer demand. He's also a board member of the European Council for an Energy Efficiency Economy, for which you should, yeah, you have a lot of duties and experience. And for the European Council for an Energy Efficient Economy, advise you to follow their web pages and their summer study. So
You were just that.
yeah. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. As Ivana said, I'm Rod Jansen. I'm president of EEIP. I've been working on SMEs and in industry in general for a long time. And one of the problems, it was really good seeing this, everything but the cold chain, because it brought out a lot of important issues. SMEs are really boxed in right now. I mean, they're trying to be competitive. They're trying to stay alive in this period when we have a major climate and energy problems. It is not easy. The session is setting the stage, improving SME sustainability and resilience. Every owner of an SME, everybody from an SME worries about sustainability and resilience. They have to stay alive. Probably the last thing they think about, except maybe in the cold chain where you see it, is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is a tool to help themselves save or solve some of their problems. Simply that. It's a tool. Very important tool, and it certainly hasn't been done enough. And as we're seeing right now with the problems with Russian gas and the price of, they should have been doing it a long time before. I used to work at the International Energy Agency, and I worked in energy efficiency. And one thing we learned was energy efficiency will not help anybody in a crisis. Energy efficiency is a long-term initiative. You can do some things quickly, but a lot of things you can't do quickly. And as much as that, if you wanted to put a lot of insulation in your buildings or into whatever, you have to make sure that Rockwool and Knauf have the insulation for you. I mean, you have to look at the whole supply chain of the energy efficiency technologies. So all of these things fit together. Now we're going to have two panels today. The first one is, and sorry, I shouldn't say panels, they're called debates when you look at the agenda. So we really want to get involved. We want people to get energized. The first one is called Energy Efficiency Measures and Audits for SMEs. The audits make sense because I don't know how you pronounce it, DSME is very much into audits and embedding the non-energy benefits into it. So some of the barriers, needs, and enabling factors. I'll just point out one thing first. Ivana mentioned that I'm with the Energy Efficiency Financial Institutions Group. I led the working group on industry. That wrote, I printed everything out to look on the train today. We have a whole section on barriers and drivers. We have a big section on recommendations and conclusions. Recommendations for the European Parliament, for the Commission, for member states, for industry itself, and for financial institutions. Now, it's still being approved by the European Commission, this report. It will be out soon. And so we'll try to make sure the organizers of this make sure that you get it and that or we do it in bite-sized sense, because this is really important. When I first started working for the Commission as a contractor back in the 90s, they did nothing for industry and nothing for SMEs. The former head of energy efficiency said, industry's handled by ETS. DG Energy does nothing. You go look at their website now, they are doing something. Are they doing enough? The Repower EU, the Fit for 55, they're doing a lot. Are they doing enough? No, but they're doing a lot more than they were. So things are moving. The trouble is that we do have an urgent situation right now. But again, what I said was energy efficiency isn't there, can't solve things in a crisis. We can turn on our lights, we can do some things. One of the problems within the ceramic industry, one of the sad things that's happened, they've had to close factories. You know, and it's probably not just ceramics, because a high percentage of ceramics industries are SMEs, but they're devastated. And how many sectors are like that as well? Now, we can't afford the cold chain people to be devastated. We need that supply of food and beverage. We can't stop it. What we have to do in your previous project is how do we take it from 8 countries to 27? And now IFIG, Energy Efficiency Financial Institutions Group, has another working group on accelerating demand to do exactly with that. Are we solving it? No, but we're trying to tackle it. I would like to welcome to the stage 3, let me get the names first. Marine. Christine Bleicher. Oh. Nice to meet you. Lisa, who spoke earlier this morning.
I have another hit now.
I know you do. That's great. And also Karina, who I met earlier today. Where's Karina? From T&O. And I think, I mean, I can introduce all, give you backgrounds for all of you, but I think why don't we just talk, okay?
Yes.
I think that's better. Marie, you
For
want,
me, you don't say anything, I already.
but you want to set the scene, please.
Yeah, I just want to say a few words. So we've mentioned it a couple of times that we've heard sister projects, it's thematic. ICCEE is working with a lot of projects. Smes is one of them, organizing the second part. You can see on top a few projects that we've worked with, basically sharing results, sharing dissemination efforts. And I've asked them, so you can see on the top the ones that are already in the panels, so you will hear from them. And at the bottom, I've asked them to send me a few discussion points. I will share anyway the slides, so I will not go into details. This is the explanation of what each project does. I don't want to focus on that now. I want rather to tell you a few points that Ben Roth can also discuss in the various debate panels. So, for instance, Innovea sent me a few findings and recommendations. The two most important is that they recommend to have a comprehensive approach to barriers, more energy efficiency in SMEs, and to change the narrative. So not to put the accent on financial benefits only, but to multiple ones. I think we've heard it a lot as well with Lisa's presentation. Next slide. Okay, another project called SME Empower sent me as well a survey that they did to over 200 SMEs with a few barriers that you can see on the slide, with an hidden barrier being the gap in the communication among stakeholders. There are many stakeholders, how do you put them together? And actually something I want to maybe to focus on as well is that one barrier was the low energy price, not pushing people to act. We are seeing now the opposite. So what are the consequences? Are things changing because the prices are increasing? Question we could ask ourselves. So they also sent a few findings and recommendations to engage SMEs early, to something that makes them, gives them an easy access to content, use their time efficiently. Doing trainings online, for instance, might be easier for them, but we have to have proper content and not too long things. The untapped energy saving potential we mentioned as well. I will go very fast here, but yeah, the conclusion from SME was on SME Empower was also that we need policies to support energy efficiency SMEs, and they should be strengthened. I will just then finish with this slide. So you have a lot of text, but I will give you some of the recommendations from all the projects. So don't read. Few things to discuss. Should we have mandatory energy audits for SMEs as well? So now we are talking about large energy consumers, if I'm not wrong. Should we specifically target SMEs with more simple processes? One recommendation. Have a range of support mechanisms to meet the different needs. Awareness raising was also mentioned a lot. Training, capacity building, promote the multiple benefits of energy efficiency more and more, and to many different stakeholders, going from the policymakers to citizens. Training I mentioned, and stronger standards for auditors and their outputs. And I'm leaving with the floor to you.
I just wanted, as you mentioned all of these recommendations and conclusions, we had a webinar in February and I chaired it, and we produced chairman's conclusions that we actually sent to the industry committee in the European Parliament, and a lot of the MEPs responded. They need feedback, okay? So you may want to think about using some of this material or materials that come from the coal project and get them to them. The rapporteur for the industry strategy is currently Tom Berenson. He's from the Netherlands, but he was very open and really wanted to get as much feedback as possible. So think about that. But Christine, we're going to invite you first. What are your views on how things are going? Okay, Christine is with, let me just see. is Secretary General of the European Cold Storage and Logistics Association. I will leave it like that. You can say the next.
So that's perfect. But thank you very much for this opportunity today to be on this panel. And actually, I don't have anything to add.
Oh,
It's all there. It's all there. And it's-
okay, next.
I can also fully underline and subscribe to what you just said about what the European Parliament is looking for, what the Commission is looking for. Everybody is looking for data.
Yeah.
We in our project are also looking for data. It's the biggest challenge that we are facing. But it's actually a good
Oh,
thing.
thank God.
Yeah, that we are asked for the data because it means that politicians, policymakers, and other stakeholders are actually busy with this topic. And I just want to underline that, especially as SMEs are concerned, and what we are getting back all the time from members and from their company members and customers is they don't have the capacity to monitor data, to take care of it. And you mentioned it in your introductory remarks that it wasn't simply a topic. Even the members of my organizations whose daily business is to produce cold in order to keep the food cold and the heat out, they were not collecting the energy data, how much they use, how much they pay for it. But now it's the only thing that is being talked about, and we have reports from countries where they have increases of energy prices of plus 500%. So I'm from Austria, and we have the saying, the head is on fire, and this is really now the situation. But it's not a good way to start sustainable policies.
Right.
You have to think carefully, especially also in the cold storage sector. Where the buildings are very diverse, some are very new, very energy efficient, fully automated, but data is collected automatically. But then you have a whole big amount of SME operators with a rather small installation, very old ones, 30, 40 years plus. What are they going to do? Is it worthwhile to retrofit, to invest in new installation, tear it down, or build a new one? And if you build a new one, you look at an investment horizon of 30 years plus.
Right.
So you also have to have the security of the policies, that they are not changed 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line.
We talked about energy efficiency first.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I mean, I live in France. The Electricity de France has a whole team collecting such granular data, it's unbelievable. In energy efficiency, nobody wants to pay for data collection. And I was involved with Romania recently on buildings, and they didn't even know why they needed to collect data, you know? And so there was a real problem, and you really hit the nail on the head in terms of data being a major issue. And I have a good friend who's a lead author for the ICCEE, and okay, they can only use published data, you know, from academics, but there's a real shortage for them. I mean, they're doing this quite blind in many ways, and even all of the models that have been developed, they're just, some of the data is actually quite debatable. But anyway, this is really important, and especially because in your industry, you can follow the whole chain, and you really do need to sort of see it in a much better way.
Yes, but still, also in my industry, in my sector, it's a challenge to involve companies that are customers,
Right.
or competitors.
Right. Exactly.
So, and as soon as you start talking data, you always have to remember the competition guidelines, the
Right.
competition legislation.
Right.
But having said all that, we have to work on it and we have to move forward. And the most important thing is, I think, to create awareness, talk to people. Yes.
No, but I was at something last week. There was somebody from Germany said, awareness has been solved, we've done everything. And then there was somebody from Spain says, we haven't even started yet.
Exactly.
You know?
What are you talking?
Yeah. And so, and Dushan and I were involved in a project, in the Investor Confidence Project, and in 2 or 3 years, just trying to create awareness for the asset owner to understand that they should take their audit and actually implement the measures and how to do. I mean, it takes a long time, and this is a really big issue. Let's have Lisa come into this right now and give your view. We've heard you once today. What are you going to add right now?
Well, I'm adding for another project today, as you might have read. So not only cold supply chain, but automotive sector.
Right.
It's another EU project we were working on. Well, I'd like to stress 2 points I read on the slide at least. I mean, but first introducing the automotive sector faces challenges as every sector, but I mean the supply shortage of key materials, the microchip crisis, so there were quite a lot of challenges for the sector, and there are radical changes undergoing electrification, Industry 4.0, which requires data as well, right? And in the automotive sector, especially because the SMEs are the backbone of the OEMs. And this is why we need to tackle them. And what we did in E2 Driver is like this first point, the energy audits. We try to make the SMEs aware of the benefits of an energy audit because they are not obliged by law to do them. But I mean, they might grow and might be and it might be necessary that they do audits, or legislation might change. I don't want to discuss if audits might be mandatory or not, so maybe we can discuss it in the coffee break. Yeah, we got really good feedback from the companies while trying to make them aware of the benefits of an energy audit, to make them capable of doing that. And I'd like to stress another point here, which is the training formats. Because I think, second point, right, information alone is not enough. SMEs need support in the implementation too. This is something we also discovered. I think 2 points in these times with the pandemics. I think new training formats are really necessary, like online formats, where the trainees can flexibly manage their time, so then they can do it at home. That's something all of the projects now did. I think all of the new projects, which was really good. The industry, the companies really adopted these approaches. But what is really important is some post-training consultancy phase, and that was something which was included in the E2 Driver project. So we sat, not me, but the trainers, sat on the table with the companies, and they talked about measures to be implemented. And we really experienced that during the energy crisis, which is up now, they were even more engaged, even more motivated. We had like a much longer list of energy efficiency measures they were planning to implement than in the pilot phase, for example, because it came on the agenda. So that was something I experienced when talking with trainers, which was lucky.
Now, you mentioned information, you mentioned trainers. I was at an event last week that was organized by DG Energy, and what the word that came up a lot was trust. You have to trust the word that trainer is giving. You have to trust this project. You need some continuity. This is one of the, and you can't just be a stop-start sort of thing, and especially when you're dealing with some small little, very family-owned SMEs that have been going for decades and decades and decades, and who do they talk to? They talk to the other people in their cafes in their town or their whatever. They don't talk to people in Berlin. They don't talk to people in Brussels, or they're certainly not going to talk to somebody in Barcelona. So, I mean, it's just, if they're from another country. So how do we build that?
Yeah.
And also, you've been doing stuff on the non-energy benefits, so you've got to gain the trust as well to get them to understand it.
Should I answer or not?
Yeah, please.
Well, I think it's really like the connection to the trainer. I mean, we do the trainings in the national language, or maybe at the companies, facility buildings, or online these times. But I think it's really, it's not only one meeting, it's several meetings with the trainers, maybe also with other companies in the same industry or also other industries, doing some networking here. I think it's really our task to bring them together.
But because we're going to electric vehicles, we're going to hydrogen, thinking about hydrogen for vehicles, maybe possibly more for trucks. How disruptive are those new technologies for the thinking? I mean, these are traditionally quite conservative industries.
To my impression, they are they're willing to go there, right? Volkswagen in Germany, they started to all the electric cars, so they are on the way already.
Right.
I think that's not the issue here for the OEMs, but of course, also suppliers beyond the OEMs have to adapt on that, and they need support, I guess,
Right.
because for them it's much more challenging to adapt their processing.
Let's switch to Karina. Karina, you work with TNO, even though I found out you're Norwegian. But Karina is with TNO in the Netherlands. She's a senior consultant at TNO Energy Transition Studies. She's had much experience in the field of energy and with the Norwegian Ministry of Petroleum and Energy and the Commission. So you've been looking at this problem from different viewpoints. You're talking about energy clusters. So what did you call it? Industrial parks. So what business parks, business and industrial park, what role are they playing, or can they play even more?
Well, maybe before I say anything about that, just coming back to this list, one of the things I'm actually missing on this list here is a collective approach to saving energy and but also doing energy projects.
Right.
And that is one of the things that we are focusing on in one of the 2020 projects that's being funded at the same time as all the others. So we have this idea that, and this has been tested out in some places in the Netherlands. It doesn't function equally well all over the Netherlands, even though the Netherlands is a small country. But the basic idea is that we are looking at approaching SMEs collectively, so not individually, one by one. And these are SMEs that are located in a geographically limited area. Could be a business park, technology park. It can also be an industrial area. And we are also looking at a trusted partner. So coming back to this trust aspect, a trusted partner who is somebody who can bridge the gap between what the suppliers, energy service suppliers, can offer on the one hand, and what the SMEs collectively need on the other. And this trusted partner could, for example, be a business park manager, industrial park manager, or it could be an agency operating for the municipality in an area where they have a big industrial area. This is what we have in Romania, for example. So that's sort of, I miss that collective approach because saving energy, so our slogan is saving energy together, and it can be fun and it can also be more economically, yeah. Yeah, so that's what we are working on. And of course, I agree, for example, so training the trusted partner to know what he is supposed to do, because a trusted partner is not always somebody who has a lot of knowledge on energy. So some of the stuff that we're doing within the project is developing training material, covering multiple benefits, covering best practices, how you actually organize a collective. And we have this behavioral aspect. We look at, first of all, activating the SMEs and the trusted partner, organizing them together, and then enabling them. Enabling that covers things like, training materials, best practices, things that have been discussed this morning that are covered within the project. And then embedding it, making sure that, it works. And when it works, you have multiplier organizations, could be associations representing SMEs that take this concept and spread it to other business parks, industrial areas. So that's sort of and we think this is important.
Are you just doing this in the Netherlands, or is this something that's happening in other parts of Europe as well?
We are also testing it. The Netherlands is one of the cases, and we also have, we're testing it in Germany, in Italy, and in Romania, and they're very different. There's cultural differences. We see, for example, in Italy, there's not really, and Italy is actually the country in Europe which has the largest amount of SMEs still in the house. I think I wrote it down. Yeah.
I think Danielle would agree with that.
But they haven't got the culture of working together. So what we see now is been difficult to engage the SMEs and trusted partner. But we see also that the national regulation is changing. So they're going to introduce a new law or a regulation in relation to energy communities. So using energy communities as a point of entry towards the SMEs and industrial parks is something that we're going to be doing now.
And they include renewable energy in this, I would imagine. Quite largely.
Yeah, so it's not, and that's maybe another thing I'd like to mention is that you can't just look at energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is just not sexy enough. You have to look at the renewables, and one of the things that we've also learned from the German use case is that the Germans are very focused on carbon footprints and decarbonisation. So you have to look at it also from a broader perspective and not just energy efficiency. That's including.
Now, Christine and Lisa, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully agree. And I also do see, since I'm also the representative of the sector organization, I think also these sector organizations can be a trusted partner and actually really are trusted partners, because there have been long time relationships developed within the national federations, but I do represent the European association, but
right.
Our members are national federations,
right.
And they already do a lot of work in this regard, also in the Netherlands, in Germany, and they do lots of trainings, etc., etc. But I think they also work as a multiplier in, and I'm sure you.
Yeah, I agree too. And to give you a practical example, in Germany, we have the energy efficiency networks where companies come together. And the next phase, which started like in 2021, I think, it is called Energy and Climate Protection Network. So it gets broader. Climate protection is also a topic to attract the companies.
Yeah, these energy efficiency networks are quite important. And I mean, as I said, I'm with the ICCEE, and we've had many sessions on that in industrial when we were in Berlin, and that they started in Switzerland and it's gone to Austria and Germany in a big way. Other countries are talking about it, but it somehow hasn't taken off as much yet. I don't know if anybody else has any. Oh, Ivana, yes.
Yeah, we had some research done through DESMA also about the energy efficiency. It was just a part of trying to find out what would motivate the SMEs the most.
Okay.
And it was peer-to-peer learning.
Okay.
So that is part of the industrial energy efficiency networks, and they're existing in other countries. A lot of them were developed through IE funding, so before Horizon 2020, and in multiple countries, even in Croatia, for example. But they were functioning on the kind of they were there, but never like very, very functional, as in Germany, for example, or having a major role. But all the SMEs or the companies that were included, they remember them, or they start talking about it when they ask them for the first, like, what is the first thing or the first place you would ask for advice for your energy efficiency project, even more than some official counseling, one-stop shop or a national authority.
We've got 6 minutes left. If anybody has a question, yes?
Yes, I would be interested to learn a little bit more. Well, with SMEs, we typically have the problem that they do not have the technical staff, and many people, many things and energy issues are typically addressed by the CEOs of the companies. So, what is your experience of what would be the right level? But as typically the CEOs, they have so many other things to do to do the sales and research and everything like that. So that energy and environment is only a small part. So what is the right entry level in the SMEs? Well, for sure, it depends on the size of the SME, but when you're talking of companies, say, below 100 people, what is the right level of entry for such kind of energy activities? Do you have any experience?
One thing we were doing in the Investor Confidence Project was basically enabling the ESCOs, or engineering companies in the middle. We had protocols. So what we were doing is that we were having the whole process was standardized. not under ISO or Senelec, but so that it gave confidence to the asset owner. Because I mean, if there were only 50 people or whatever, but by the fact that that ESCO was actually certified under our approach, the other thing we did, which was quite important, we haven't talked about it yet, was that if our projects were certified under that process, we had a whole number of banks that said, "Yeah, if it's done there, we'll fund it. We won't ask questions." And so, and there's a group in Vienna called Trust EE doing that. There's eQuad in Italy doing that. So, and I think that you're right. The CEO of the small company just has too many other things to talk about, to deal with, and as I was saying, just to survive, you know. And so, but they need that trusted intermediary, and that intermediary plays a much bigger role than we often think about. We often sort of dismiss it, but it's incredibly important. Yes, Dushan.
Just going back, you mentioned trust, as being something, which depends on continuity. And then we're jumping a little bit on sort of mandatory energy audits, which anything mandatory doing to the companies does not really increase trust. But when we kind of jump over the kind of key enabler of something going to produce continuity in the company is energy management systems. And recently we had a new ISO standard, especially for SMEs, 50005, introduced. It's less than 10 months ago, and this could be a really kind of the key enabler. It could be something that can unlock both trust, but then also sort of systemic.
Well, we have Marco McKinney coming in the next session, and UNIDO actually funded a lot of training for ISO 50001. So maybe we can ask that to just, okay, you got 1 minute to say what you really want to, the final word to the group. I don't want to put pressure on you, but we've got 2 minutes left for three. Okay, Lisa, you wanted to go first. No.
Well, just one finding for me to drive a project I would like to highlight is that in the SMEs we have high specificity of the company. So we have so many sectors. We won't have a one-size-fits-all solution. We need targeted approaches, and we should tackle that side.
Christine.
I agree with that. Targeted solution, no solution one size fits all. That doesn't work. Also, red tape is a complete no. So no mandatory anything. I think, and I would like to put the focus on the trust and on the awareness.
Okay. And Karina.
Yeah, no, in the slide that I prepared, the first point and the learnings so far within our project is no size fits all. So I completely agree with you that we've developed this handbook, which allows in terms of developing a collective approach. If you have some experience from before, then you don't start from scratch, but you can also learn from others by sharing best practices. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you.
I didn't say it until now, but we are recording the event. It will be available in a few days. We are preparing a briefing, the highlights from the event, and the slides that were prepared from the panelists will also be available on the website, so you can access.
Ivana, you're one of the panelists this time. You're in trouble. Okay. And Filippo and another Marco. No, it says Antonio, but and then we have another Marco. Marco, oh, there you are. Hello. Okay.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning. Okay. Well, this one is what's next? Building an enabling policy and regulatory framework for supply, value chains, and SMEs in energy efficiency. We have a policy debate, but we're going to start with this, Marco, because you have to leave soon.
Unfortunately, yes. Thanks for inviting me, Ruth, and thanks for this very interesting workshop. Let me briefly introduce myself and explain you what I'm doing. I'm program manager at the European Innovation Council in energy and green technologies. And my focus is to bridge the policy and implementation. So writing calls, understanding where we should allocate budget for challenge-based calls, which are the areas in innovation and research that are that need most support and why, and support our beneficiaries, the projects that are funded by EIC. I will explain briefly what we do now, in order to align the ambitions of the research policy targets with the actual results from projects ongoing, which are usually a bit detached. If we consider that the work programs of Horizon Europe is written by the DGs, DG Energy, with co-creation group with all the other DGs in particular, while the agency, the executive agency, are in charge of the implementation of the program. So selecting the evaluators, follow-up of the projects funded, and checking milestones and results. But sometimes without the view of the initial ambition of the call to address specific target, bridge given gap, technological gap, and so on. Where are we? In Pillar 3 of Horizon Europe, you know, about 95 billion euro of funding in research and innovation over the last, in the next 7 years, 21-27. And we are, as European Innovation Council, a key part of Pillar 3, which is focused on innovation, and in particular on support to small medium enterprises, including support to energy efficiency measures, which is particularly important and very well aligned with the Fit for 55, Repower EU, Green Deal, all the policy targets of Europe. So what we do at the European Innovation Council, we fund both fundamental transformational breakthrough research, ERC style, but not to a single scientist, but to a consortium of applicants that build a consortium similar to what happens in Pillar 2, but with at very low TRL. In order to disrupt the current landscape of technologies available to address specific issues. For instance, we launched a course on green hydrogen generation, mid-long-term energy storage, carbon management and valorization in the last few years, and we are working on the challenges for the next years. But we also fund with the accelerator instrument startups, small medium enterprises that have the ambition to bring to the market a technology that is already quite mature, but has still issues in scaling up, in definition of the specific market segment where this technology could be implemented. And the focus is on deep tech projects, so there should be a technologist to be upgraded, to be scaled up, but also on social innovation, consciousness of end users, customers towards improved energy consumption patterns. So I'm particularly keen to define and propose for next year also specific challenges in accelerator to support startups that will increase the awareness of energy end user consumers toward energy efficiency measures, towards everything related to digital energy, digital twins, improved monitoring of energy consumption, waste heat recovery, big data analytics to assist load forecasting, and a lot of tools, instruments, including hardware and software to enable new technologies for energy efficiency, in particular in the industry.
Yeah, but we talked about facilitators in the last session. I mean, and trying to get to those SMEs. I mean, what you're doing is is, okay, for some startups that are working in very specific areas, that might be different. But for someone in the automotive industry in Germany, I mean, they may not be able to absorb, or how do you get to some of these companies, or in Bulgaria or in Estonia or whatever?
Well, there are specific instruments, CSA actions, communication and support action. They are specifically focused on market uptake to enable the user, to facilitate the use of specific approach technologies to a broader audience, or other funding mechanism. Also, I'm thinking to Life, and there is someone that will speak about Life, CET, or other funding mechanisms outside Horizon Europe that are available. But our ambition is to create and reinforce leadership in technological area to guarantee the technological autonomy of Europe worldwide.
Right. Okay. But that must be easier for large industry or energy intensive industries, I would imagine, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, if we think what could be the broader impact, I'm not sure that the largest impact could be achieved at touching only the large energy consumers, but also engaging with a huge number of small consumers. I think it was small, medium enterprises that will probably implement measures to improve their energy consumption more than what is already done by large incumbents that are already adopting best technologies.
Okay. I mean, every time a council meets, Energy Council, Environment Council, climate, they're always talking about innovation. So that's on the lips of everybody. Now let's go to Ivana. Ivana, you haven't been introduced yet, have you? No, but she's with ICCEE as well, and she's a senior climate and energy expert. And I met her for the first time 3 weeks ago, so we're old pals now. And you've worked on a lot of different projects, so you've actually got some good ideas and also some of these conclusions that were there. You possibly are an architect of them. Please.
Yeah, well, I guess since this panel is looking at things from policy perspective, as we already heard how SMEs see energy efficiency, I actually wanted to refer to our guidelines for the policy experts, for the national authorities. And it's a kind of a follow-up of what has been said at the end of the first panel, that the solutions are there and they need to be replicated. And again, they need to be targeted. And that is what was the result of our challenge of our research also. So we did a surveys and the guidelines for 10 countries, and then it was of course done also for the whole EU. And I can tell you a bit that all the countries have completely different challenges.
Sure.
So you would say that most countries have transposed, for example, Article 8 regarding energy audits similar, but it has nothing to do with each other. So it's a very, very complex it's complex to find a solution. But then again, when you look at the countries specifically, you found that the other countries have a solution for this specific country, but they are not communicating on that level. So for example, I can tell you like some simple things. Like, for example, a lot of countries have a very limited resources for transposition that is relevant for example, Eastern and Southern European countries, where 1 or 2 people are working on the whole energy efficiency package. And then they are working on, with companies, but with buildings also, with citizens, with everything. So it's an impossible situation to do anything concrete with energy efficiency. Then, for example, for some countries, it's very hard to identify obliged companies in audit or audits for the large companies, because they don't have any kind of, I don't know, chamber of commerce that has a very good register of companies. It was very strange from the perspective of other countries. Very easily transposed kind of way they work. Then, for example, most of them have issues with ensuring compliance. That's something that was mentioned in the previous session. Why should we oblige SMEs? And the answer is no. But for large companies, which are already obliged, and for the large consumers, which will be obliged with the new EED, the problem is that they are obliged, but there is no restrictions after they do not implement the audit. So it's a question on whether this is relevant or not, the whole obligation. Then, for example, the quality of audits, which has been targeted in the UED much more than it was before. So the quality is very different among them. Some countries have certified auditors, which have to get education every 2 or 3 years, or they have to go to trainings every now and then. They have to be engineers in different fields and so on. And some countries just have the obligation, you do the audit yourself and we'll just report in a certain way. Then again, not to talk too long, but there is a question from the countries, from a lot of countries, where can we put the compromise between how we oblige companies, how we monitor what they do, and how we don't spend a lot of money monitoring what they do. So this compromise is very hard to achieve for many. And the worst, let's say, issue or something that's most important for all of us regarding the auditing is the uptake of measures, of course. After they do the audit, how to motivate the companies to really uptake the measures. And then there is the question of finances, and then we come to all the barriers mentioned for SMEs. Do they have available resources? Do they have, but do they even want to participate in something like that? Because energy is not their priority. Do they have a person who cares about energy efficiency in their companies? The answer is no, and so on. You probably had other questions, so I can.
No, that's well, but one of the things that bothers me with what you said is that we have what's called concerted action for the energy efficiency directive, and so we have experts from each member state to actually collectively try to find not necessarily common solutions. I mean, Estonia might do it differently than the Netherlands. It's not that, but that they can share experience, and it doesn't seem to be working enough. Okay? At least maybe to a certain extent. But
yeah, maybe the question is what are the questions asked? So whether the real problems were at the moment were identified in a way. Because when we were asking some questions to the national authorities in the survey, they didn't even consider this to be a problem. Like, for example, targeting companies. Okay, we don't target all the companies. Those who want to do the audit, they do it.
Right.
And then others, in most countries, they can just implement ISO 2001, and that's enough.
Right.
So if they do it or not, we don't know. So maybe they didn't put it as a discussion point because they didn't consider it an issue. So this might also be something.
Yeah, maybe. Let's move to Filippo right now, and quite a different perspective. You do represent part of the commission, and your work is very fundamental to what everybody in this room is doing. Okay.
Thank you. So indeed, I complement actually what my colleague said, because I'm working for a different executive agency, which is called SMES, the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency, and there we are really targeting and we are trying to foster the market uptake of cost-effective energy efficiency measures and renewables. So his executive agency is more on innovation. We are more, let's say, on the other side, on the market uptake. So what I would like to highlight with my intervention is that also line with what we have heard this morning is about the core role of sustainable value chains in creating value. So we have actually a topic currently open under the Clean Energy Transition Sub-Program of the Life, where we are looking exactly at this. So the idea behind is that companies, by decarbonizing and improving the energy performance of their activities, they are basically generating a value for the society, for everyone, because they are contributing to the implementation of the new Green Deal objectives. So to reach a fully decarbonized economy by 2050, and more in general, the SDGs goals. And we think that in this context, companies can look at their suppliers, but even at their customers as a partner to further increase this value. And that is why in our topic, which is open now with deadline in November, we are encouraging companies to create collaborative approaches. So again, try to not only compete, but really to share approaches. And another important thing that we are trying to achieve with this topic is really to push companies to rethink the concept of value. So for this, I mean, why a company should be judged by the market, by the financial players, by the banks, only for the value they are creating. for a determined segment of stakeholders. Why companies should not be judged for the value they are creating for everyone. So we know that companies are using concepts such as free cash flow, net value income to describe this value, but there are other concepts that should be developed in order to capture the value of sustainability within the business model of the company. So already within the purpose of the company, so the way the company plan to generate value. And of course, we are lacking at these metrics, I would say. So we are pushing for this, for basically applicants to come up and to start a preliminary reflection on new economic models or languages, if you want, because again, the value is there. I can say if you want later on, perhaps on the role of multiple benefits, again, not only at company level, but also on supply chain level.
I love this whole approach of collaboration. This also goes with what Karina was talking about in terms of their industrial business zones and things like that, collaboration. I think this is, I mean, we're also in some projects on industrial symbiosis and looking at it, you know.
Sure.
And so the more and more we take an integrated approach, the better to this. Marco from Austria, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Rod, and good morning to everyone.
You've been hearing a lot. What are your views on what's going on?
Well, I think
UNIDO.
Yes, sir.
Marco's from UNIDO. Okay, sorry. I think it's all in the agenda.
And probably just for the colleagues attending, UNIDO is operating essentially in developing countries and emerging economies. But the work of projects like ICCEE and Smes are and most of the Horizon 2020 projects on industry and energy efficiency are extremely valuable for the work that we are doing, because it's a lot about transferring knowledge and experience. Regarding the question of the panel and also the presentations of this morning, the whole discussion, one remark that I would have is that moving forward with strengthening policy and regulatory frameworks for energy efficiency in SMEs, it would be worth reviewing whether this group has to be segmented a bit more. But a 20 employee company is very much different from a 200 employees company when it comes to energy efficiency, both in understanding the benefits and implementation. A second point that I would like to make, and just before I think this second panel, a colleague I think in the audience mentioned energy management system. This morning we have seen a list of measures that have been identified for improving efficiency of cold chain. I think the presentations of Beatrice and Maurizio both mention the managerial aspects of energy efficiency. Maurizio had also a lesson on how operation, maintenance, and management interact to decide also the results of energy efficiency. But I think that the goal for policy and regulatory framework has to be the integration of energy efficiency in the daily business practices and decision making, both those related to operation as well as strategy. Now, to achieve this integration, I think that energy management system ISO 50001 provides still the most effective solution, and I think it's also a quite unique solution, which requires tailored program and schemes to help SMEs in implementing it. I would like also to mention Lisa and another presentation this morning highlighted communication challenges between companies that are along the supply chain. I would argue that energy management system could provide a common language to deal with energy efficiency. But I think that it is really a key solution to push forward energy efficiency implementation and work within SMEs and supply chains. And I don't know, sorry if I maybe additional point. I had the opportunities and the privilege to be involved over the last few years in of Horizon 2020 projects related to energy efficiency in industry. And in my personal view, they did extremely useful work. They produce valuable products and tools. However, Rod, you also asked before, how do we go from 8 member states to 27 member states? Right. And I would like to ask to the colleagues from the commissions and the various agencies if they have considered the possibility of having schemes to support the same projects for replication, but work on energy efficiency in SMEs and also large companies has a significant change management element that is related to the enterprise resource planning and management, but it takes time. And if awareness is the first necessary and very valuable step to take to achieve this change within companies, takes more work also to the companies. And I wonder if some schemes to also support the Horizon 2020 projects in some further replication and deepening of the results could be considered, because in UNID experience, really, the time we spend with companies in working on energy efficiency and building understanding and helping on identification and implementation is critical to achieve sustainability and also autonomous work on efficiency. Thank you. I stop here.
Marco, yes, thank you, Marco. Now go to Marco too.
Yes, we pay a lot of attention to synergies among programs and instruments. So for sure, we always have the aspect of energy efficiency and integration in our challenges. So for the challenge of mid-long-term energy storage data has been opened just 1 week ago with deadline in mid-October, is focused also on integration of storage. By the way, energy system flexibility is a key to increase the energy efficiency in the end users. So when we integrate storage and energy efficiency measures at building level, industrial level, in several sectors, this is a specific key that we try to pursue. But there is a lot of effort with ICCEE programs, with valleys. For instance, there is the hydrogen valley, but not only on hydrogen. Other tools that are mixing research and deployment of that research at broader level, and also life clean energy transition has this ambition. And also we in particular as program manager are in charge to maximize synergies with member states in each country, because each country has its funding mechanism, support program for innovation and energy transition, and we try to build the continuity between European and country level support mechanism, which is a key aspect. And for sure, to enable energy efficiency, I think we need technologies related to advanced sensors to measure energy losses, digital twins, and technologies to enable predictive maintenance. All these should be linked to the integration energy system. We have electric vehicles, we have prices, variable price of electricity. So energy efficiency means something different according to the level of integration of our infrastructure.
We've got 4 minutes left. I want to ask Ivana, who could be the Desmi. Is that how you pronounce the project? Anyway, the thing, you know, I'm only a member of it. Was energy, I mean, Marco has been telling us about the importance of energy management systems. Was that integrated? You did a lot on audits, but was the ISO 15001 concept integrated into the project at all?
Yeah, that's the core kind of part.
And how did SMEs react to it? Did they think, oh, this is too much for me, this is just right? I mean, what was the reaction?
So we are trying to do what has been mentioned by Marco. So we're trying to take a look at the strategic thinking of the SMEs, because as I said in the beginning, and this was also mentioned in the previous panel, energy is not their priority. It might become with all the situation, but it's not, because it's not their major cost.
Right.
And they usually don't have the competencies to deal with energy a lot. So we wanted to integrate it in the business management and the cost benefit analysis, two things that they are major priorities. And by that, I mean mostly business management, trying to do the energy management system, the energy audit, as part of their strategic management audit, so that they can also check the multiple benefits of the energy audit and integrate it in the financial analysis of the company. So that is the kind of the objective of that from the perspective of.
Filippo, what's the possibility of getting longer term funding for some of these things to get it from 8 countries to 27? Is there thinking going on in the Commission how to roll out these, to get them to scale at the EU level?
Yeah, I mean, this is crucial indeed. In our project, we are already asking the coordinators and the consultants to allocate some budget for application activity. This is indeed very important, but as also my colleague mentioned, I think the success key would be really to engage with the member states, with the local level, because at the end of the day, the clean energy transition is going to take place at local level. So these type of synergies are not there yet. It might be, we need to strengthen them. Direct funds should be coupled with structural funds, indeed. So the local level really it is crucial, because at the end of the day, what we are discussing here, which is very interesting and added value, it will not, reach the companies that are at stake.
Yeah.
So how to do this? This is a question mark.
Yeah, these are really big question marks that none of us have solved yet.
Yeah.
And it was a bit disappointing yesterday that the Energy Council was still not being as robust in terms of the energy efficiency proposals that the European Parliament is accepting, or the Commission even proposed. So I'd like to thank all 4 of you. I said in an email to you that we're going to run into time, you'll get frustrated, and Marco's been quite patiently sitting here. We've been watching his office sort of, and
He has no cat.
yeah, you have no cat there. And and I was working with Marco in Turkey on some of these same ideas for industry in Turkey. So these are projects, these are concepts that are not going to go away. Filippo, Marco, Ivana, thank you so much. So everybody, please give them a. Who's giving the conclusions? No.
Well, I can.
This is for the whole day, not for just.
You didn't ask if there were questions, actually, I don't know if.
Nobody had their hand up.
Nobody has. No, I will just do some basic conclusions with a big thank you. It was a challenge for me. First, I said it because after 3 years organizing something in presence, gathering people to travel and come here. But also because you saw the number of speakers gathered in this event today. But I'm very happy about the results. I'm very excited to produce the after-event briefing with key discussion points, recommendations, and to get your feedback, to get your more views of the event recording. I want to thank all speakers for making it here, a few making it online, and a big thank you as well to Rod for the moderation. I knew you would do great. Thanks to Ina as well, who traveled to do the keynote this morning. And of course to Ivana, my colleague. And yes, I think that's it. Then we have a lunch planned. It's a buffet lunch at the ground floor. They say 12:45, so you can take your time, discuss, get something to drink, and we meet at the ground floor for those who can stay. And this afternoon we have a project meeting with a few of you. It's going to be in this room as well, so you can come back here around 4. Thanks a lot.